use it to transform and empower our young people in particular. We must use it to imbue our young men and women with a culture of responsibility, independence, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence. We must use it for the eradication of poverty through the creation and support of sustainable livelihoods based on our cultural heritage. It is important from an educational perspective, for example, for the National Cultural Policy to inform how our curriculum ought to be revised and upgraded to promote the requisite values in our young people and to help us achieve the objectives outlined above. Beyond education, however, our new National Cultural Policy has to be mainstreamed across all of our developmental strategies and activities, inter alia, physical planning, environmental planning, tourism, economic planning, and so forth. During the ensuing consultations towards the development of our national cultural policy, we ought to take into consideration our country's rich and vibrant historical and cultural heritage and how it ought to be deployed and leveraged to add value to our tourism sector, for example. How can we use these assets to ease our transition and evolution to a services-based economy, to put more people into employment, and to create a wider entrepreneurial class of people in our society? It is my distinct pleasure, therefore, that in developing and implementing and putting into practice a cultural policy for our country, that it will serve as a vehicle to truly build our people and lead them to rewarding and fulfilling destinations. This launch of our National Cultural Policy consultation process this evening therefore signals to me a very important beginning and might serve to hasten the coming into fruition of its noble objectives. Thank you very much.
Tonight, I'll be doing a piece on women empowerment entitled Rise Up. I know of a little girl living in a little country in a big, big world. She thinks many thoughts with a smile on her face, thoughts of how to make the world a better place. But she's been shut out and shut up, you see. Whenever she speaks, she's stopped abruptly so that Mr. John and Mr. Jones can tell their violent ideas. And whenever she tries to spread the love, nobody bothers to care. Although we are all equal members of the human race, because of her gender, she must keep a woman's place. Well, I say, I am a woman, and you are a woman, and our place is on top. We are queens, and queens beat kings. So, rise up, little girl, rise up.
She wrote that piece herself.
Thank you.
And perhaps in the near future, she will be producing a play soon.
UNESCO is truly proud at this time to be partnering with the Ministry of Culture on such a significant and timely initiative that will ultimately result in the development of a national cultural policy for St. Kitts and Nevis. This intervention and contribution by UNESCO falls under its funded participation program as well as its regular program and budget for 2010-2011, where, in this particular case, some $80,000 EC has been allocated to implement this project. Essentially, UNESCO has a mandate within this particular program area to actively assist member states in its efforts in safeguarding, conserving, and managing their tangible and intangible cultural assets. UNESCO is also pursuing its core role in the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions by assisting countries like ours in the development and implementation of national policies such as this one that we are embarking on this evening. At the same time, the organization is also encouraging the ratification of various UNESCO-related cultural conventions. For example, St-Kitts-and-Nevis has already signed on and ratified at least 2 of these particular conventions, namely the protection of the underwater cultural heritage and the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage, where, as we all know, Brimstone Hill Fortress is a tangible product. Let me therefore take this opportunity to urge the government, through its Ministry of Culture, to sign on and ratify the other important related cultural conventions, including the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage and the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions. I am sure that this will bring much benefit to this country, both in terms of raising awareness of our unique cultural heritage and in generating much needed heritage tourism income. These efforts will indeed also strengthen and reinforce the process towards the implementation of the National Cultural Policy and will eventually help to strengthen our international cultural relations and negotiations with other member states and multinational organizations. Also, as we contemplate this policy, it is important to consider the fact that the natural talents, creativity, innovation of our own people can indeed match that of anyone else in the world, especially if they are nurtured and marketed properly. Be it the reggae superstar, Busy Signal out of Jamaica, in comparison to our own infamous from Keon, St. Kitts. I thought I would have gotten a louder applause for that. Or the taste of our national dish in comparison to the United States McDonald's burger and fries. It is clear that our own people has the natural potential and talent to reach the same heights of these so-called proclaimed internationally recognized icons. This national cultural policy, therefore, should help to empower and inspire our young people in particular, and help to guide them and help to guide their creative energies in the right direction along a sustainable economic path and with a view in fostering a culture of peace that is so much needed in this country today. I do believe that we have a glorious opportunity through the National Cultural Policy to create a space for our talented and creative citizens within the new and emerging cultural industries to enable them not only to express themselves, but to also kickstart a sustainable living for themselves as young entrepreneurial artists in their own rights.
Thank you very much. Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Maynard, we have to thank UNESCO. We are very grateful to them for the support that they are giving in this initiative. And for your words, we shall remember the Performing Arts Theatre. We shall remember. Minister Daniel.
We in the Nevis Island administration regard culture as central to the development of the society. We recognize that it is culture that has made America great. We also recognize that it is culture that has made China great and rivaling America for greatness. And as such, this opportunity to pay careful attention to our culture is welcomed. We also recognize the work ethic in Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, and Malaysia is reflective of their culture. The work ethic flows from the culture, hence their preoccupation with efficiency, productivity, and performance. And in Nevis, we are now saying performance matters. We want to put the implementation of this policy, the implementers of this policy, on notice that a policy is a guide to action and that action must begin immediately. We have developed a number of policies for all sorts of things. This one cannot wait. The objectives, as we say in the assessment of social services and other things that are intangible, must be smart, specific, measurable, and achievable, reliable, and time-bound. So sometime next year, the people responsible for this policy must tell us how far they have gone in developing the policy. If it is that culture is a way of life of a people, then we have work to do. This business of violence, this coarseness, and the gun crimes are not part of the culture that we know. These are alien and must be proscribed. I hope this cultural policy has something somewhere in there to build the consciousness of today's young people, a consciousness that reflects patriotism and awareness of our history from slavery to colonialism to independence. I'm saying so because I think I have had to deal with too many Eurocentric ideas, and I am having to deal in a society where the level of consciousness, black consciousness in particular, is too low. And I am finding that I am having to deal with too many roast breadfruits and too many apologies for being black. So I hope the policy guides us into having that sense and that confidence and that feeling of self-worth in our own traditions and in our own society. The late Professor Rex Nettleford, the late Walter Rodney, Edward Cameron Brathwaite, and Marcus Garvey would be pleased to know that we are developing a policy to build consciousness. We owe it to all of them for their work. Zach Nisbet and David Freeman will want their work to form part of the cultural mix in St-Kitts-and-Nevis, and I hope the policy will do that for them. I think we need to adopt a wraparound concept where culture is wrapped around education, it's wrapped around health, it's wrapped around agriculture, wrapped around trade and industry and tourism. And in that trade and industry, I hope there is somewhere that we could find a way to reorient our palates to the local cuisine. And also wrap around tourism. These industries can only be strengthened with a strong infusion of our culture. Our religion, that critical part of our culture, I'm sure the people developing the policy will take note and bear in mind that it is a cornerstone of our culture. I am of the view that the arts have a brighter future than sugar and bananas, and as bright a future as tourism. And as such, we must ensure that we can add value to our culture. I know that Britain takes our sugar from the Caribbean, cheap, takes cocoa from Ghana, and makes expensive chocolate. And so it gobbles up the value added. I wonder if we can take the same thing, take the same approach, and do something with our steel band, our string band, our big drum, our masquerades, and all the other cultural aspects of our culture, cultural aspects to add value. I believe that we have the capacity to do so, and the people responsible for implementing the policy must take that on board. I hope I can find somewhere where we develop a young writers club or young writers clubs. I think Derek Walcott, Nye Paul, and Lamming, and all the others would like to know that we are doing that. And for those persons involved in the art and craft, I hope the policy helps us to find a way of preventing so many of our tourists or visitors from leaving our shores without some aspect of our craft which is distinctly Kittitian or distinctly Nevisian. It cannot be business as usual where you get a mug made in China but marked Nevis or marked St. Kitts. We need now, since this is cultural policy time, to have some distinct features of our art and craft and have them marketable and have them marketed so that we can add value. We believe that in Nevis we have set the stage to allow the policy implementation to take roots. When we got to government in 2006, we recognized there was a disjuncture between the National Festival Culturama and the Department of Culture. So we created the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation with 4 units, one unit for festivals, 1 unit for research and documentation, 1 unit for artistic development, and 1 unit for administration and management. So all matters of culture are executed by the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation. We are at the moment, Mr. Maynard, looking to complete the Performing Arts Center. And if you don't want duplication of ideas, you can come across and do your thing in Nevis. The sea bridge is available and all the other ferries. And so the economists will tell you, you may not want to duplicate these things. So you can have your performing arts. You can come and perform while you wait for the construction of your center. We will be ready for business by the end of August. So if you have something to do, prepare, and we'll be ready for you. Okay? In the meantime, you can rest assured we will afford you the same status, preferential,